Move on to our next keynote speech of the day, which I'm delighted to say comes from Eduard Fesko, the Deputy Head of Mission and Deputy Ambassador of Ukraine to the United Kingdom. As many people in the room will be very familiar with, the City UK runs the City Ukraine Hub with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, which is a critical part of the support that the industry has put to the Ukrainian economy over recent years, and something that we're very proud of the work that has been done around. After the Deputy Ambassador has spoken, he will be in conversation with Nicola Watkinson, the Managing Director of International at the City UK. Can you please welcome him to the stage?
Well, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you very much for organizing this conference. And I think this is absolutely essential that we also talk about Ukraine, about what happens in Ukraine, what is available, what can be done, what should be done, where we can improve both sides, Ukrainian side and our international partner side. As the war has demonstrated, the geopolitical risks, it's not a regional conflict. Ukraine is at a crossroad of global importance. And in this situation, Ukraine is not an outside the global economy. It demonstrates that it's very much an important part of it. It's also one of the places where new approaches to resilience, to continuity, and strategic investments are being formed. Macroeconomic stability remains one of the most important factors these days. In February 2026, the International Monetary Fund noted that after almost 4 years of a full-scale war, with the real GDP in 2025 still about 20% lower than pre-war levels, Ukraine has managed to maintain overall macroeconomic and financial stability, and it's very much thanks to the external support and wise policy decision-making in Ukraine. Because all the international support without proper implementation on the ground means nothing. And the monies that were provided to Ukraine from international partners, including from the IMF, from specific countries, have done a great job, because the program of macro stability, continuing reforms, and developing financial and capital market infrastructure for recovery, that's what helped our government to continue forward. And Ukraine's financial sector is modernizing even during the wartime. The National Bank of Ukraine has updated its strategy and clearly states that the financial system of Ukraine should be fit for purpose of integrating into the European Union. And the focus includes sustainable finance, development of capital markets, new financial instruments, digital financial services, regulation of virtual assets, and restoration of financial infrastructure. These are practical improvements that are happening in a country at war. The scale of reconstruction needs makes Ukraine one of the largest opportunities in Europe, according to a joint assessments by the IMF, the UN, the government of Ukraine, the European Union. Those reconstruction costs are estimated at around $600 billion over the next 10 years. And there are specific sectors where the needs are most acute, which are transport, upward to 100 million, energy, about 90 billion, housing, about 90 billion, commerce and industry, 60 billion, and agriculture, about 55 billion. That's huge sums. In this context, it's more fitting to speak about not about aid versus investment, but about public and private capital working hand in hand. And this highlights that private investments, private money, can play a key role in recovery. However, attacking private money requires reform. And this includes, and this is what our government is working on, improving the business environment, strengthening competition, expanding access to finance, addressing labor shortages, huge thing, aligning production with EU, green, and digital standards. The main task is not only to attract capital, but to ensure that the projects are structured in a way that makes them investable and that the risks are clear and understandable. The domestic banking system has proved to be much more resilient than expected. The assessment by the National Bank of Ukraine, the stress tests conducted, has shown that everything more or less in order. Bank capital increased under both normal and adverse scenarios in stress testing. At the same time, fewer banks needed higher capital requirements compared to assessments before the full-scale war. This does not mean that the risks are low, but it shows that the banking system is working and can support recovery. The next stage is not only about stability, but it's also about active financing. According to the Financial Stability Report, the Ukrainian economy can increasingly rely on domestic funding. Lending to businesses is growing, specifically to small and medium enterprises. Big enterprises are also taking advantage of the available capital. For international partners, including from the UK, this means that they are not entering into a vacuum. They can work with local banks, able to co-finance projects, share risks, and support growth. For the United Kingdom, the opportunity is not only to finance projects, but also to help design how the financial system for reconstruction will work. The 100-year partnership that was signed last year sets out cooperation through the City Ukraine Hub. And this includes support for access to capital markets, development of stock markets, better governance and reporting standards, legal reforms, strengthening banking and insurance sectors, and a reliable digital company register with clear information about ownership. London has a very clear advantage in this area. Ukraine does not need capital. Just the capital on itself, it's not much. It needs the abilities to structure projects, to assess risks, to provide expert finance, to develop insurance and reinsurance, build legal frameworks, ensure transparency, and strengthen investor confidence. This partnership, and it is foreseen in the 100-year partnership, even considers the use of English and Welsh common law in financial contracts, which can simplify the processes and increase trust for international partners. Insurance plays a huge role in this process. In wartime and early recovery, the main barrier for private investment is often not the lack of opportunities, but the difficulty in pricing and transferring the risks. That is why war risks insurance, reinsurance, and guarantee mechanisms are critical for trade, logistics, construction, and investment. The UK government has highlighted its support, including through cooperation with international institutions to expand war risk coverage to support trade and investments in Ukraine. This market is already developing a practice. The EBRD has introduced for Ukraine Ukraine Recovery and Reconstruction Guarantee Facility, a 110 million euro program that provides insurance capacity for war-related risks. This has already allowed the Lloyd's market through MS Emlyn to sign reinsurance agreements with Ukrainian insurers. The first focus is on short-term insurance for cargo and transport by road, rail, and inland waterways. This is important because it changes how the investors see risks. When part of the risk can be transferred, sectors that were previously too risky become possible for financing. This includes trade routes, logistics, agriculture, warehousing, municipal services, energy projects, industrial production. In these sectors, the business cases already exist, but investment was limited due to security concerns. And this shows that why London's role as a global center for insurance and risk management is important for Ukraine's recovery. And it would be remiss of me not to mention, of course, the huge part of our bilateral cooperation is MilTech. Innovation and defense technology are also a huge part of the economic picture. In March 2026, during the UK-Ukraine strategic dialogue, both sides agreed to increase cooperation in cybersecurity, in artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and innovation-led growth. It was also noted that the Tech Bridge initiative has helped Ukrainian startups attract more than £10 million. £10 million is a lot of money from a single person view, but it's peanuts in terms of cooperation between two countries. So this is the area that needs a lot of attention, and this is the area that is very promising. I'm not kidding you. When I was driving here, riding a train, I got a message on my WhatsApp from a contact. Hey, we have some Kuwaiti investors, huge money. They want to invest into Ukrainian defense sector. Can you please link it up? So there is this interest. There is this drive. There is a lot of opportunity, and there is already an interface for doing that. So I think lots of people are sitting, waiting, and somebody else will be making money. And why it is important? Because this is relevant for the UK financial sectors, because defense technology is not only a hot area to invest in Ukraine, but it is a hot area to invest globally. And what Ukraine can bring to the table is real-world experience, fast development, and constant improvement based on battlefield feedback. The UK can bring industrial capacity, capital markets, export finance, insurance, and access to global investors. So there are these two things that can produce a lot of synergy and a lot of practical outcome, but it still needs additional push. Overall, Ukraine situation right now, it combines security challenges, which are very obvious, but it also shows economic resilience, and it also demonstrates the structural changes that can and should be implemented both in Ukraine, but there are also lessons to be learned from Ukraine in the United Kingdom. Ukraine's recovery is not only about rebuilding infrastructure, but about creating a modern and an investable economic system fit for not just for the 21st century, but we are talking about the 22nd century. For financial institutions, especially in the United Kingdom, this is both a challenge, which we all are acutely aware of, and an opportunity to take part in one of the largest reconstruction efforts in Europe. So, thank you.